If you've heard of somebody in prison that knocks somebody out, then booty bandits them, gets that butt, that's been known to happen. And that's a threat that you don't take lightly. Somebody says something like that to you got to put a stop. You got to address that real quick. So, how this starts was whenever I got to prison, I trained martial arts for 2 years at a Kempo karate school. Open and closed 6 days a week, probably 4 hours a day. Was literally driving. He had two different schools at two different locations. And, I talk about a lot of my trust issues too. It's a whole other story with this, but my teacher, my mentor, um, turned out to be a sex offender who was messing with an underage student from the time she was 14 to 16. He got 6 months in jail for it. I got 8 years in prison for a drug deal that happened in my apartment that I did not arrange or profit off of. That is our justice system. Just like Cain Velasquez is facing what he's facing right now, and there's a good likelihood he'll get more time than that person that did terrible things to a baby. But anyway, that's a side story. Open to close, I trained. This guy had trained in a little bit of everything. He taught us basic grappling. And side note, something that was really weird. In our belt testings in Kempo, we would have to spar with him. Well, it's Kempo, it's striking, and he always trash dogged jiu-jitsu and judo. Well, in everybody's belt test in the one-on-ones where you'd have to spar him, he would take everybody down, and you could just look at him spinning around on top in top control from place to place and know he knows something. Well, I paid him for a private lesson and asked him to show me, and he's like, I'm so good on the ground at submitting people. I'm like, why? That's why I'm here. Show me. I don't like how people smell, so I try to tap them out as quickly as possible. It's like, you're full of it. I didn't tell him that, but I knew he was full of it. And all this time later, I've confirmed he is full of it because people that I do judo with, black belt who I do judo with, Chris, a long time black belt, he used to cross train with some of the guys over at this club. And so he learned judo, learned the grappling part of it, beat his students up with it. Now, he would show us how to hold a pin. He would show us various pins, a few different throws. He didn't show us any escapes, though. He didn't show us any transitions or sweeps. The only thing he showed us from guard was submissions from guard. Not a whole lot. So, I mean, that was ridiculous. Just shows him as a teacher. And if you went trained anywhere else, then you were basically a traitor to him. So, we did learn basics though, and we did actually do live rounds where we sparred and did in actual sparring. Sometimes we were allowed to do takedowns, and I got pretty decent, hitting a double leg when somebody was overcommitting towards punches. So the Kesagatami back then, that's a judo name for the pin. I knew it as a scarf hold. That is what he called it. And from a few seminars I went to, I learned some really cool stuff because we could go to seminars, but we couldn't go to any other local gym and cross train in jiu-jitsu or judo, or else we were traitor, we were dead to him. It was ran like a cult, to be honest with you. But Kesagatami is such a solid, strong pin, and what had happened was me and my buddy Fox, who I lifted with, who's giant. He's about 240, 6'3", much bigger bone than me. We were just being stupid, messing around. We got to ended up wrestling, and I ended up getting him in Kesagatami, and he was fully stuck. Now, I was chubby then. I was probably about 185, 190, a little bit pudgy at it. But I'm only about 5'8", 5'9", so I'm holding down this giant guy who's muscular, who's just a big bone, muscular dude. I mean, he's a big man. He works as a bouncer in hotels. The last I'd heard from him, and after that, there's this other guy, Philly, and he's like, I don't think that worked. Blah blah blah. Well, get that. Let me try and hold you in it, and I put him in it, and you can apply some pressure and make somebody's ribs feel like they're caving in and suck the wind right out of them when you squeeze and lift in a certain way, which I will demonstrate this week in a video. But I did that. He goes, oh no, I'm not getting out of there. Well, apparently during this time, so the rumor has spread that quickly from the upstairs to the downstairs. This is a low security prison. It is not an open pod. You walk in and it's a hallway. It's 10 foot wide. There are 3 computers with desks on each side. There's a TV room at the back. There's a hallway to the left, hallway to the right. You have to open a door, and that's one quadrant. Open a door, it's another quadrant. When you first walk in, there's a door. You open that door, there's a stairwell. It goes to the top. There's an open area. You have to walk to the back of it, down another hallway, through another door. There's a quadrant on that side, a quadrant on that side. We are in the top left quadrant. So the guard is in his office. There's a door there. To get out of the quadrant in which his office is in, that's a second door. To go through the door that leads to you have a door that leads to the stairwell. That's a third door. Then there is a fourth door that leads to our quadrant. 4 doors between us and the guard station. You can scream as loud as you want. The guard would not hear you. Not possible. And we have people looking out. We're playing and stuff too, and you can hear them coming, and people say whoop and everything else, so you know they're coming. Well, it's cubicle setting. So around the perimeter of each quadrant, it's a 35 men in each quadrant. There are 7 foot high cubicle dividers with an open face. There's not a door to it. It's just an open face that you walk through. And down the middle of the quadrant, there are 3 4-man rooms that have 4 foot high dividers. We had moved, the beds weren't bolted down to the ground. They were bunk beds, but we could slide them. So we cleared all the stuff out. Well, this guy, who's a behemoth of a man, not the least bit fat. If he were to get cut up to where he had abs, he would have been about 220, but at this time he was about 240, but not with the slightest bit of a belly or a gut. He hadn't lifted a weight in 10 years, according to him, and he went on the weight pile and did 275 for 4 sets of 10 on bench. That is absurd. If you have not lifted a weight in 10 years and you can just do 4 sets of 10 with 275, that's strong. And apparently this guy had fought Butterbean. He'd lasted the whole fight against him. He didn't win, but if Butterbean couldn't knock him out, I'm not going to be able to knock him out, I don't reckon, unless I just magically hit something that, Butterbean couldn't hit hard enough during their whole fight. So this guy comes up, and he gets in my fight. I guess he was newer there. Now he'd had an ankle injury, he'd gotten in a motorcycle accident or something like that, and he got in my face. That stuff might have worked on him, it wouldn't work on me. Well, I was like, well, it's basic mechanics of martial arts. Yes, it would. Let me show you. I wasn't being rude or anything. And he said, leaned forward, got in my face. Now, there are people around the 4 foot divider. There are people lined around it, like 15, 20 people watching this. They were already watching me show that I could pin the other guys, and that's how the rumor had gone down there. And apparently there was a guy in the unit that people were talking about that was tougher or more skilled than he was, and he didn't like that. So he got in my face and said, if I wanted to, I'd hold you down and rape you. Oh, it didn't sit too well with me, I've trained enough, and I told him, F your mother. I said, F your mother, just instinctively. He punched me so hard, my flashed white. And I shot in for a leg, blood dripping. My lip was thrashed. Like from here all the way up in here was completely open. I could not eat salty foods or anything for probably 2 months after that. Every day. It was terrible. I had to be careful that nobody saw it so I didn't end up in the SHU for investigation for something that happened to me. But I shot in for this single leg, and he sprawled out on top of me with both my arms wrapped around one of his legs. And he gets a body lock over top of me, and he starts trying to sling me this way, sling me that way. Well, I've got a hold of his leg. I'm attached onto him. And on the third or fourth time, because he's slinging me this way as hard as he can, then slinging that way, it was predictable. So about the fourth time, when I can tell he's slinging me this way, I roll with it. See, I'm in a turtle position with my arms around his leg, and he's sprawled with his arms like this over top of me. I go with it, and I roll. He rolls onto his back. He's on his back. My back is on his chest, and then I flip over, so then I'm in top position. I get him inside control. Now, if somebody has you inside control, most people, the general reaction of every single person I ever saw at the karate school, and I know everybody's reaction of how to get out of it wrong because our teacher at the karate school never taught us how to get out of it. He taught us how to do it. Luckily, I didn't end up in it. Luckily, I ended up being the one. It all worked out. It worked out. If I'd been the one inside control, it would have been a bad night for me. And the reason the karate school teacher didn't teach us this is he wanted to be able to beat us up, so we looked at him like some type of, a god or something, like he had magical powers. Basically, he taught us the attacks, he didn't teach us the defenses. But anyway, that's beside the point. So I'm in side control. I'm not an expert grappler. I don't know everything about how to do it. And he's trying to kick out of it. He's kicking his feet up in the air. He's bridging as high as he can. I have him in a cross face. So his head's here, his feet are here. This bicep is going around his face and crushing into it. This arm is hooked under his opposite arm. So I have this arm around his head, this arm around underneath his other arm, hands together. And I have my feet sprawled out on my toes with all my weight into him. He's not getting out of here. I let him kick a few times, and when I start hearing him, he might be able to box for all these rounds, but when you get in a grappling match and you're not used to it, you get winded quite quickly. You'd be very surprised. We've had marathon runners and CrossFit athletes completely hyperventilate after a single round. It's just like with striking. You have to learn to breathe with each strike, and you hear that when people are striking, you have to learn to breathe. Just like when I talked about doing burpees, you have to learn to breathe to do them too. Well, I just kind of held him there and I let him stew for a second. I let him cook, saying in jiu-jitsu, cook the beans. You don't cook beans quick, you let them stew. And once he's gassed out, my turn. So trying to get a hold of him, this guy's just said if he wanted to, he'd hold me down and rape me. Now, he wasn't ever going to do that. I'm not the same kid I was that went into jail, but that's something you don't say to somebody. You don't call somebody the B word. You don't call them any type of gay slur, gay stuff, none of that type of stuff. You don't do that. You do that, it's on. And if you don't address that, at the very minimum, give them a verbal thrashing, let them know and bag them back down. And somebody else hears it, word's going to get around. You're going to start losing respect. People are going to start walking right all over you. So, that was a big part of this. And, I guess I might have escalated a little bit. There's no way it could have been done different. He said that to me. He said, I'll hold you down and rape you. I had to say, F your mother to him. I had to say, F your mother, right in his face, because if I didn't, then I'm a punk. And all of a sudden he punked me. Then everybody else is going to think they can talk to me, do whatever they can any type of way. I'm at the start of a prison sentence. I'm not at the end. This is my first 6 months. Okay, I've got a little bit to go, and even if I am in the low, I'm not going to be looked at as some type of joke and everything else, and have everybody laugh at me and joke on me and stuff. I went through that in the jail. I lifted, I trained, so I didn't have to deal with that anymore. Wasn't going to happen. So I have him in this, in the crossface underhook, and I take my elbow up. Now I've got all my weight posted on his chest. He does not know how to get out of this. He's just going to try to bridge up and out. Instead of bridging up and out, if somebody was their head was here, their feet were this way, instead of bridging up and out, you get your elbows under them and you do what's called a shrimp. You turn and you scoot your butt out that way and push. And then it helps you create distance. I'll show these basic things, which you can find easily on YouTube. Um, but to get out, but he does not know that. He's never done tag grappling in his life, doesn't have a clue about it. So I dig my elbow into his jaw and give him a few short elbows to the jaw, and it starts opening up that arm a little bit that I've got the underhook on. Now I've got the crossface and I pin his hand. So I've got the crossface going under his head and I pin his hand with the hand that's the crossface hand. I have to slide that elbow out above and over, and I've got two hands on his hand. So I'm over top of him. I have to pin his one arm with this hand, reach under, back and around, and get this type of lock. So it's my two arms versus his one arm, and do what's called an Americana. It's a lock. It's also known as a key lock. Now what it is it takes, as a Kimura takes your shoulder this way, an Americana takes it back that way. Now big muscular guys are real tight right here. He's able to bench 275, 4 sets of 10, 8 lifted a weight, and that big he's 240. I mean, he's not tall either. He's 5'10". It's just a giant man, big man. And I get it back, and I don't stop until I hear 3 pops. Pop, pop, pop. And he said, "All right, all right, all right, all right." And he walks out holding his shoulder. My lip is something messed up, and everybody in there is like, a lot of people are glad I did it. Normally a lot of time the pedophiles will tell on all kinds of different people for different things, but he messed with so many people that I think I got lucky because none of them told on this particular situation. Didn't end up in the hole for it. Ended up getting questioned for it a little bit later. Now, it tore his shoulder out. I actually saw a picture. Looked him up on Facebook not too long back, and there's a picture of him flexing with both arms up. And I can see from the back one shoulder's a little bit different than the other, and I know what a torn rotator cuff is like because I've torn my rotator cuff and my right shoulder kind of slumps down a little bit more. And it's had to have torn his rotator cuff, and he was wearing an arm sling, all that. I didn't check in on all the specifics. Um, but yeah, I did not stop until I heard a pop. This guy did not get knocked out by Butterbean. He lasted a full fight with Butterbean. He told me if he wanted to, he would hold me down and do what he wanted to me. Um, I'm not going to see if he's going to make good on that promise. That's some scary stuff. If you have a guy, and this is a guy that's won a ton of tough man competitions and other stuff like that. So it's not the time to be playing around. So yeah, and there was after that it kind of word got around. Oh, he's some guy. He's some kind of martial arts master. This, and that. No, I was not. I was not. I do very limited, very basic stuff, and my Kempo, trying to do one of the self-defense sequences, which it was way too slow on. I got punched in the mouth. My lip was split so bad that it took 2 months to heal. Like all the way up, all the way up there, messed up. Good. Like I had to watch what I ate for 2 months, like 2 months. Had to tell my family not to come visit me because I was hiding from the COs, hiding it. Whenever they walked by, I had my head turned so they couldn't see it because if they see marks on you, they'll put you in the shoe until you either tell or you've been in there so long and they got to let you back out. I don't want to do that, so I just kind of, stayed in the shadows till it got better. But after that, had a little reputation about me, and a couple guys who I'd trained with and stuff. But that really was a wild one. That was like the thing. And old black man named Blue, was saying, I guess it was the scramble with the single leg, where he tried to shut me to one side and I rolled with my back to his chest and flipped over in reverse position. He said, "You look like a Tasmanian devil when you did that." So, and it was a bunch of people, and they started laughing because he wasn't one to, really talk a lot. But I guess the fight got him excited. So Taz, that was a nickname that stuck after that. But yeah, it was kind of like moment of glory that ended up cementing, a little bit of a reputation that stuck with me and went with me a little bit to the medium. It was more among the guards. There was actually an incident because the guards ended up hearing about it somehow. Like I said, I got questioned about it. And in my prison khaki suit, I didn't dress like flashy. I didn't dress like, and there's so many giant men in there, so many giant men that just are muscle monsters. Like you would not believe how big so many of these guys are. And this was a huge guy. So when the guards hear this and they're pointing, I see guards talking and point at me, and I'm like, shit, what I do? They get ready to take me the whole. What I do now? Like, I've got anxiety issues, so if I see something, like I assume the worst. Well, I'm at the medium, and there are these four guards. There's this one giant one who was cool. He was the coolest guard. He caught people making wine instead of putting them in the hole, which possibly get them transferred. He'd say, when I come back, it better be gone. And people drink some and flush some, and it'd be gone. And he worked with people, but he was a giant. I mean, he had to be a bodybuilder. He was literally 240 pounds, not big boned, black man, bald head. That was they said he was able to get 495, I believe, for three on bench. Cecigo, one of the coolest ones. A lot of times, you get muscle headed type people out, they get an ego. This was the coolest one. Well, it's him and three other COs, all of them black, and they're pointing at me and making this mean, serious faces, and they get me over. They're like, "What about it? You know that stuff?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't know anything about any stuff. What stuff? What are you talking about? Nah, like you know how to fight. I said, I did a couple years before I came in, and he looks at he did a couple years. We got you, we got you. Or you kick somebody in the head if you wanted to. And I'd been stretching 45 minutes twice a day during that time. There's not a lot to do. And then I did a Bill Superfoot Wallace, who is an incredible kickboxer. He's like in his 70s now, but he was an incredible undefeated kickboxer with the fastest kicks ever recorded. I did a seminar that he led. Half the seminar, the hour and a half seminar, is at a big martial arts seminar called the Karate College in Radford University, where various martial artists from Enzo Gracie to Bill Superfoot Wallace to Joe Louis, the kickboxer. There's a kickboxer, Joe Louis, who's called the Muhammad Ali of kickboxing. He's a white guy though, not the brown bomber. So Bill Wallace's seminar, 45 minutes of it was just stretching, because he would stretch 45 minutes twice a day. So I tried to model that. And I could do a lead leg side kick and hold my foot up in the air. And, they had me, we were around the side of the building, had to go around the side because they couldn't let anybody see me doing this. You weren't even allowed to shadow box. If you were caught shadow boxing, doing any type of martial art, you'd get in trouble. They'd put you in the hole for that. Like, no, you can kick somebody here, right? Show us a kick, show us a kick. Well, the lead leg side kick, I've been trying to keep working on it, and it was something that I'd gotten pretty decent at, and I could hold it up at head level, my own head level. So pretty much it would be able to kick somebody that's around 6 foot tall in the chin, and they thought that was the coolest thing ever. Now, never go where other people can't hear what you're doing, what they're saying. Inmates were walking in, inmates were walking out, and it was clear what they wanted to see. But never go behind doors. COs, You go behind the door of CO, they're going to assume something bad that'll ruin you forever. That rumor, that rep gets started going around. Never, 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 never. Y'all ain't going to prison though. Y'all gonna listen to my stuff. Even the kids listen to stuff. Y'all ain't gonna go. Y'all gonna listen to all this awful stuff I had. People trying to get your butt, everything else, and you're not gonna go. So you ain't got to worry about that. But so, yeah. But God forbid something happened and you did. Important, because it could lead to you getting beat up, shanked, whatever else. Talk that guard behind doors. That's something you don't do. So I always made sure if I was going to speak to them, I kept it brief, kept it moving, and did it in an open spot. But yeah, rumor with them that got started, and then it was just, it made things a little bit easier. Um, Kept me out of a few situations, which I'll tell about how it helped with later. Psychological warfare is a big thing. If people think you're a bad mother, you know, and you carry, like, you have the attitude like you are, you can get in people's heads to where, you know, they're defeated before you fight them. There's a psychological warfare that you can put on certain people where they get scared of you, where they question themselves, and if you can get them to question themselves, you've pretty much already beaten them. But this was not. This was with him doing that. I guess the guy who did that, who popped me in my mouth, whose shoulder I popped. Um, don't want to say his name. Certain people might get upset. Who knows? Might try to legally come after me. So that's why I don't say certain people's names. The full name. A lot of this stuff. These are all aliases and stuff like that. So yeah. But anyway, when he tried to get in my head by saying if he wanted to, he'd hold me down, do whatever he wanted to me. He's trying to get in my head and beat me before it started, but I came back at him quick, and then he came back at me quick, but he got in my face. I told myself, oh man, something might be getting ready to happen. I shouldn't have let him get that close. That was against one of my own rules, but it all happened so quick. You keep somebody beyond arm's distance away at any time. One of the most common things was for somebody to look back there, boom, and just come right at you and sucker punch you. So I always tried to stay, away, and I'd end up. It looked like it was just like I was standing in a comfortable way, but one leg, left foot forward, right leg back. Do this. So then if I needed to, be able to his shoulder's still messed up, to block, and then from there get back and react. But yeah, that was the story about how the nickname Taz came about, which was something that's Taz, Billy Bob, Mother effing Mum Power, since my last name's Mum Power. Mother effing Mum, for some reason, people like saying that. I never told people, so just people never met each other. Like, Mother effing Mum Power. Like, it just, some reason, that's something people like saying. Maybe it's because my reaction, like, Jesus Christ, man, shut up. And I'd get embarrassed, people do stuff like that. But, those were a few of the nicknames. And Billy Bob, Taz, that's all the ones I can think of right now. I'll go over prison nicknames. Tell a story about my friend Big Midget here coming up soon. That's a funny one. Oh man, that's a funny one.